And while we're waiting for everybody to pop on, anybody have a great success story this week? No great success stories. I hear some good feedback about your ramp classes there, Ron. You have anything good happening there?
Which one? I'm sorry.
Your ramp.
Oh, the ramp. Yes. Yeah, we started last Friday. Today we're meeting in Plantation office at 1. But yeah, the agents are excited about it. Yeah, everybody's doing good. This will be our second week.
Fantastic. Just get my network connection going here on my other computer.
So Rob, I made a comment at our office meeting this week about my using the first app, and I've been reaching out to clients of mine that I haven't spoken to for maybe 5 or even 10 years, and who are showing up in the app, and their response to me has been, "Oh, I'm so happy to hear from you. What's going on? Tell me what's happening in the market. We need to understand it." And so I've been able to actually set up a couple of appointments to go out and have, initial conversations about what's happening in their marketplace, and see where that takes us. But
how do you start the conversation?
I say, hey, it's Robert Garver. I know it's been a while, but I've been thinking about you, and I wanted to reach out and see how you all are doing. At this point, I imagine the kids are pretty grown up since the last time that I really spoke with you, and I'd be excited to hear about that.
So easy conversation, right?
Yeah, easy. And they're like, "Oh, Robert, nice to hear from you. What's going on?" So it's not as scary as I thought it would be, and I haven't had to be apologetic about not having reached out for quite some time.
Fantastic story. Thank you for sharing that. So, part of today's session is me having like some of my core beliefs and then trying to find ways to validate them by other successful individuals. And I think 2 key variables for success when you take all the noise out of there is goals, right? And that's kind of like the direction where you want to go. It's kind of like an airplane has to have a place it wants to land. Otherwise, it flies around aimlessly. And then habits, right? So if you have clear goals and then you have habits that are proven to get you there, I think success is going to be inevitable. Anybody want to challenge me on that? Because I think if you break down and you take all the distractions out of our life, those are the things that really matter. And I'm going to ask, is anybody a big fan of Apple products or Steve Jobs?
Yes, Rob, Pavla Gibson.
Pavla is a big fan. So would you say he was successful?
Yes.
I mean, he kind of changed the world, perhaps, with the Mac computers, but maybe much more significantly by his vision of what a handheld phone looks like, right? And I think, calling this iPhone a phone, it's really kind of not what it really does, right? It does so much more than being a phone, right? It's almost like the phone is like a legacy name. It's almost like a handheld computer, right? So Steve Jobs had a set of principles, which I think are worth repeating, and they resonate with me. And his principle number 1 was do what you love. And he told a group of employees, people with passion can change the world for the better. Would you agree that Steve Jobs probably did that? Right? I mean, I think, how many people rely on their handheld device, perhaps even more than their computer, right? Raise your hand if you're one of them, right? You're always on there looking at stuff, and Mr. Jobs changed the world. Principle 2. And I think that this one is kind of a Steve Jobs, Elon Musk principle, but put a dent in the universe. Passion fuels the rocket, not necessarily the SpaceX rocket that blew up yesterday, but fuels the rocket, but vision directs the rocket to its ultimate destination. And Steve Jobs back in the 70s had a passion at that time to put a computer in everybody's hand. And if you were around in the 70s, you would know that there weren't computers in households. So that was a pretty bold vision. Principle 3 was kickstart your brain. Creativity is connecting things. And I think all these discussions here have severe relevance in what we do in order to change the trajectory of how we're viewed. Connecting things means seeking inspiration from other industries, okay? At various times, Jobs found inspiration in a phone book, Zen mediation, visiting India, or a food processing plant, and the Four Seasons hotel chain. So that's kind of thinking outside of the narrow lane of what our competitors are doing in the real estate industry and looking at how can we pick up ideas from outside the industry to change the experience. Principle 4, sell dreams, not products. I mean, can there be anything more relevant than that statement in real estate? I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes the noise gets us distracted from the fact that, you know, a house is kind of a dream, right? Especially if it's a first-time buyer. You know, he put Apple products, he said that people who buy Apple products are not consumers. They're people with hopes, dreams, and ambitions. And, you know, he defined himself as an individual that helped fulfill dreams. Principle 5 is say no to 1,000 things and yes to one thing. And how many of us, you know, when we're looking for solutions rather than staying focused on our goals and habits, we look at other things that might solve our problem. Let me buy this product. Let me buy that product. Have we all been guilty of buying products and really not embracing them and using them, even though they might work because we have too many? So, you know, the iPhone started as a very fundamental and simple to operate device without a whole lot of bells and whistles. It was very clean. And there was a point in time where Steve Jobs was trying to develop a lot of different products, kind of like what Google does. They develop, you know, so many different products, and then he just pulled back the reins and said, I'm going to focus on one device. And that one device probably has Apple worth more than Google, which has so many different products as an organization. And principle 6, if we redefine ourselves from we list homes and sell homes to buyers to we create insanely great experiences, could that be relevant to our industry?
Yes.
Rebecca, did you have your hand up or is that by accident?
By accident, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Good to see you on the call.
I I just want to throw in the experience makes it all worthwhile. That's what it's all about. People remember how you made them feel. They'll never remember anything you said, but they know how you make you feel.
And Rob, they won't even remember what you charged them, will they?
Not for a second.
I mean, they won't remember whether there was an eighth higher or an eighth lower in the interest rate. They won't remember if they paid 5 or 7% commission, as long as you exceeded the expectation and delivered an insanely great experience. Okay. And then
That's
the
it.
the last principle is, and Rob Durso, you probably have seen some really talented people in the industry that know their market stone cold. They know how to operate all the systems. They can market well. But what happens when they can't master the message?
They fail. They fail miserably.
Yeah, they land in mediocrity or they fail and they exit the industry. And that's a shame, right?
Every
Because
time.
you can do a great job, you can provide tremendous service, but if you can't deliver the message, okay, if you have that anxiety of or phobia of communication, you're going to be very limited in what you do. You're probably going to have to sacrifice in price. And if you don't charge a fair price, it's hard to deliver insanely great experiences, right? And
No
one of the
question
things
about it.
one of the things I believe is, you know, the industry is filled with people who haven't really been in the industry, right? Would you agree? Like a lot of the people like in the academic portion or the educational portion haven't been boots on the ground.
More often than not, you know,
And,
that
and I think that there's traps that are set for us, Rob. And like when they talk about, you know, compensation, how much you get paid, have you ever had the person that, or have you ever heard of the conversation where somebody rips $1 in half and says, I have to give half to my broker. Excuse me, maybe
Yeah.
I have to give half to the agent that finds the buyer. You rip that in half. I got to give half
Yep.
that money to my broker. I have to give money to the IRS. I have to advertise, and they have a piece of a shredded dollar, and they say, this is what I really make.
Yep.
That's very logical. But do you really think the client cares?
No, they don't.
they could care less.
They could care. It's very dramatic, and you basically waste $1. But I don't think the message is correct. And I think that message was created by somebody not in the industry that didn't understand what motivates people to take action. Okay. So do you think that those principles were pretty relevant to our industry, even though they came from the tech industry, from an icon named Steve Jobs?
100%.
All right.
I believe that when you look at service as a whole, whether you're going to get a meal or you're going to buy a property, everybody wants high-end service. They all want to leave feeling good. They want that great experience. And that's what we do. That's our job.
It's like Nordstrom's. People will pay more because the service at Nordstrom's is exceptional.
Yep. And there's a place for everything, and there are people that change the world. I remember when I went to visit my brother in Hoboken, they had this book exchange. There's this old book that was in the book exchange that my brother took, and I borrowed it and I read it. It was called Sam Walton Made in America. It was at that point already an old book. All the pages were yellow, but I couldn't put it down once I started reading it. Okay. And I look at like Walmart, and you know, Walmart's not necessarily the Cadillac of the industry. We don't want to consider ourselves to be a Walmart, but I think there would not have been a Costco if there was no Walmart. And are there any fans of Costco here?
You bet.
Yes, I love Costco.
Okay, so somehow when Sam has passed on and they grew, maybe some of these principles aren't as relevant, even though they probably are the biggest retailer on the planet. And I also, you know, read probably 4 or 5 years ago that Walmart and its distribution system and everything it does gives us about 4.5% more buying power and improves our standard of living dramatically by its own existence. Whether you shop there or not, what it does is it creates a more fluid marketplace. And the store distribution channel that Walmart has is second to none, probably similar to the direct-to-consumer Amazon shipping system. So when I read this book, these are the highlights of the book. And it was set expectations for everything that you do, was kind of like the preamble for Sam Walton. Chapter 1 was to commit to achieving success and always being passionate. And if you ever saw clips of Sam Walton when he'd go into a store with his little Southern charm, he knew how to engage everybody that worked there like a politician. And it was amazing. Share success with those who have helped you. Okay. Again, another political, not governmental political, but engaging your tribe process. Motivate yourself and others to achieve the dreams. Communicate and show that you care. Appreciate and recognize people for the efforts and results. Own all the accomplishments. Listen to others and their ideas. Exceed expectations of consumers and others. Control expenses and swim upstream. Be different and challenge the status quo. And his summary was, the one I love the best is, our people make the difference.
That's right.
And for somebody to, make everybody's life, whether it's 3% or 4.5% better because of the way they distribute and they cause others to become more efficient, is amazing. And, one of the things that Walmart did during this inflationary period, and I found this to be amazing, is that they tracked all the core inputs of their suppliers' costs, and they had such a buying power that they forced them not to increase their prices more than the core inputs. Because I feel like, when prices go up, you feel like sometimes they never go back down. Anybody feel that way? Well, Walmart to this day is tracking the core inputs to the products that they buy, and they're pushing back to their vendors so that people can have a more abundant life by, being able to afford more. And, Sam Walton in the book also talked about he would never mark a product up more than X, even if he could sell it. He didn't look at, if I raise the price by another 7% and I only lost 2% of sales, that's what I do. Because his mentality was to sell it at the lowest possible margin so that nobody could compete. It's not to maximize the revenue per item. And he said, I couldn't run my business two ways. Right. And I think for us, it would be, I hope for most of us, is to provide a top shelf, top tier service where price is secondary. Right. Because it's not like you're going to list one house 7 times. Okay. It's like you want to make sure that you deliver that experience at a fair price. And I really believe if you hone your skills, you're probably going to, be a net positive to a consumer because of your, promotion, pricing, negotiating strategies and techniques and skills. You're going to get them more than what you cost. Does anybody believe that? Like, you deliver far more value than you cost, and hiring you versus a competitor is a no-brainer?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I believe it, and I see it every day with the agents. They go way out of their way to get deals put together and completed. They spend hours and hours on the phone, saving deals, not because they want the commission, because they want the buyer and the seller to be happy and to have a successful end goal. And that to me is, that's the nature of our business, but I see it every day with our agents.
And I almost, if I look back at how my perspective of industry was, I felt like there were some people, 30 years ago that I looked up at as icons doing such a tremendous amount of business. And I thought to myself, wow, they got it all figured out. Why do they have to go and learn things? They have all the right words, they deliver excellent service. But what I learned is if you don't have the humility to continue to learn, right, the competition is going to stampede past us, right? Because 1 year of change now is probably like 3 to 7 years back in the 90s when I started out. Like between 90 and 95, the difference in the business was minimal. Between 2001 and 2003, it's astronomically different.
I can attest to that. Every day our business changes. Every single day. So to learn new things, to stay on top of it, keeps you excited, motivated, and it keeps you current. And you have to be current because your clients are current. It's not like they can't see things on the internet or even on TV.
And Colleen, one of the things that I really think we missed the mark on, and I don't think enough people talk about this, is, what is a licensee in one of our offices? What do they call themselves, Colleen? They were telling their friends at a cocktail party.
They call themselves a real estate agent. I'd like them to call themselves a sales professional.
Real estate agent, sales
Or a
professional.
consultant.
Right. And what
Consultant, yeah.
what do they mostly do? Like, what's their target audience?
Their target audience is anyone with a real estate need or anyone that has a question about real estate. Or what's going on in the mortgage market, what's going on
I'm a
in
marriage
various things.
counselor also.
Oh, yeah. And a psychiatrist.
Go ahead, Netta. What else?
I'm also a marriage counselor and sometimes a babysitter and possibly a dog sitter too.
As far
Alright.
as the mortgage market, I don't want to interrupt, but if I could have a few minutes towards the end, Rob, of the meeting today, because there's some big significant changes that are coming on board May 1st, and nobody's really talking about it.
So how about I give you 3 minutes at 10 o'clock, right in the middle?
Perfect.
All right, we'll take a little break. I'll get a cup of water and we'll get you started. But
Sounds good.
where I
So,
think
Rob,
that
what we also do is, we're teachers. We teach our clients how transactions take place, what's going on in their marketplace. There was an old story about WebMD when it first came online that, doctors were concerned they were going to lose their patients to WebMD. But the idea was that, when people put in their, what their symptoms were into WebMD, they came back with responses that could have been anywhere from, like a head cold to some wild flu that was coming from the Orient.
That's a
And
great
let them-
analogy, Rob.
It left them with a need to go see their doctor to find out what was really going on.
At the end, you need a professional.
We find the same thing today when people look at Zillow for his estimate and they look at Realtor.com for their definition of what your house is worth. And the numbers are so staggeringly different that they have to come to a realtor and say, hey, what's really going on? So I think that's a really important aspect of what we do today.
And just to tag on what you said, it's true because really experts in the industry, with our professionalism, our knowledge, and our expertise, we're actually the trusted advisor that educates, as you said, our clients and let them know exactly what's going on so that they can make informed decisions.
I think one piece that we're all kind of missing, or this is all very relevant because I think the consumer with the internet has this WebMD mindset that they can go on Zillow, they can use these techniques to find what a house is worth. And I was talking to during one of our happy hours down here, our social gatherings, an agent who said that somebody who they had built a relationship with, right at the end of their listing conversation, said, I only want to pay 1 and 1%, right? And they're like, well, let me run the numbers. I have to get back to you. And they were disappointed that this person that they built a relationship with was trying to only pay 1%. And my thought was different. My thought was that, we didn't do a good job at educating them on what it is that we do. And, she said that they were very difficult. And I said, what I would do is I would find examples of properties that sold putting out 1% and show how they performed compared to others and say, look, if this is the way you want to go, here's how these properties behave. And here's how properties behave when they get full marketing benefit. And you can't take that personally. So I agree with that part, but I think where we're missing the huge opportunity, and I want to say this is a big change, is that we don't define ourselves as being all things real estate. Okay. And when I was in our Davy happy hour, somebody was telling me that, they had built such a relationship of trust with one of their clients. They bought a few single family investments. And then they came to her and said that we have a $4 million shopping mall we want to sell. And she's like, I want to do it, Rob, but I don't have the skill. I don't know what to do with it. And I was like, look, align yourself with somebody that knows commercial. And at the happy hour, fortunately, we had one of our commercial people there. And, now we can expand our definition and say we could help you with all things real estate. And with that, all things real estate, I would bet that most people in the industry, if not most people even in our organization, aren't having intentional conversations with their clients, with their sphere, talking about, if you ever had any thoughts of investing in real estate, I'm the person to talk to. And if you're not having those conversations because you're not comfortable with those, there is a really simple entry point to understanding, what opportunities are out there. And, to deny your clients the opportunity because we're not having the discussion, I think is not being the professional that we can be. Right. And I love to talk about, let's assume that, we have a really long career and every year we have a client appreciation event. 10 years from now, we have this client appreciation event, and we do it for an office. And one of the clients talks to one of your clients and says, I am so grateful working with Remax. Agent X, 10 years ago showed me how I could fund my kids' college education by buying a 4-family house, and I paid it off and I had change left. And your client says, huh, my agent never mentioned that to me. How would that make you feel? Anybody?
It would make
Like
you feel
let them
horrible.
down.
Incompetent.
It would make you'd feel pretty lousy, right? And I really think that it's not a sales call. It's more of an educational opportunity. And you can't have those conversations unless you first understand it. And it's really simple. I think, Netta, you talked about part of our job is we're like a marriage counselor, a psychiatrist, you said a pet sitter, right? All those things that we do to help our clients. But why not? I mean, those things are unpredictable. Those things are emotionally challenging. But educating somebody on, the opportunity to make investments, like, why would you want to put all your money in the stock market? That might be a little bit more volatile. Wouldn't you want to be able to diversify? You know, and one of our agents, told me, I would say it's 2 to 3 weeks ago, that when they bought their first house, they were intentional about being able to have an investment in real estate. And what they did was they took an FHA mortgage on their first house, even though they could have put 25 or 30% down. Okay. And then they moved out of that in a year, used that as a 3.5% down investment property, and bought their next house with the 20% down because they anticipate it. Now, what if you're talking to a client who was thinking of buying and had some aspirations of investing in real estate? They had 20% down for their house. If you can share with them that they can buy an investment property for 2.5% down with a subsidized interest rate and a lower MI premium, might that change the way that they buy their first house? And I'm going to ask Frank. Frank, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on.
So Frank, if you own a house, right?
Mm.
And then somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to buy this house and I want to pretend it's an investment. I want to pretend I'm going to live there, but it's an investment.
Mhm.
What do you call that?
Mortgage fraud.
And what can happen? A lot of bad things,
A
right?
lot of bad things, right? Get prosecuted for mortgage fraud. I mean, people do it, but I wouldn't advise it.
And Frank, would the outcome be exactly the same if they, instead of putting 20% down on their first house, they put 3.5% down and then put 20% on the second house? They wind up with a 3.5% down investment that has no mortgage fraud, right?
Yes.
And I think that's education.
Mhm.
And how many people that buy their first house would say, hey, I'd love to figure out a strategy to buy an investment property? And I see you, Ned. I'm going to ask you, do you think a lot of first-time buyers would love to have a strategy to buy an investment property in 1 to 3 years?
Of course, they just need the right advice. They need to trust someone, and a lot of buyers don't have any trust in a lot of lenders and realtors, and you need to speak with them with confidence and have them trust you and speak in a way where you make sense and they can understand in layman terms.
And Frank, can you refinance an FHA property if you're not living there?
No.
So it still has to be your primary residence to do a rate and term, or no?
Yeah.
Do any lenders do rate terms if you're not living there for FHA, or no?
Take a look and see. I have to take a look and see.
That might be interesting to know, but regardless, if you think about just that difference, I mean, if somebody was buying and they're getting an investment property 2.5% down, like, you can make them work all day long, but it's just called mortgage fraud.
Yeah.
But if you do it in anticipation, it's called smart planning, right? And this is akin to the same thing as if you do tax evasion, you go to jail. If you do tax avoidance, you're smart, right? Because you plan on having a strategy for minimizing your taxes, right?
Yes.
So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to you. We're 4 minutes late, but here's your 3 minutes there, Frank, to give us an update.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is going to sound really crazy because it sounded really crazy to me when I saw it. So somebody sent me an article, one of my investors, and it said that the way that the government is going to be meaning Fannie and Freddie are going to be pricing loans as of May 1st is going to change substantially. And I'll actually put the link in the chat. It was written up by the New York Post. And so essentially, as of May 1st, if you have a lower credit score, your pricing is going to be better than somebody that has a good credit score. And also, if you put down a larger down payment, your pricing is going to be worse as well. So I didn't think this was real. I actually reached out to my colleague I work with, and he told me, although it's controversial, he said it is real. And starting May 1st.
What's the logic behind that?
I'm assuming it's to help borrowers that have lower credit scores, but it's going to be at the expense of borrowers that have good credit scores.
I heard from my lender that this is a spinoff of the LLPA's adjustment that has been around for many years.
Yeah, well, new pricing is going to be out May 1st is when it kicks in. So we'll be able to see where
think it's a
everybody's
marketing
pricing.
thing.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that because nobody's really talking about it. So I just wanted to, if anybody hasn't locked yet that does have good credit, it might be a good idea to do it before May 1st. Not knowing what this is going to look like May 1st.
Okay,
So.
it's great for sharing. Any other lenders have any input on that? That's really interesting.
Yeah, there's already slightly higher pricing with 20% down than there is with people who put less down. It's really usually just absorbed by the lenders because it's not substantial. And the thought of that is because they're paying mortgage insurance, so they try to make the pricing a little bit better. There's also something that's come out recently where, depending on your income on Fannie and Freddie, lower credit scores are not getting hit. So you should be seeing better pricing on lower credit scores already from your lenders. But I don't know that it's going to affect higher credit score borrowers. It's really just meant to kind of compete with FHA at this point for lower score borrowers. So your lower score borrowers who meet the income limits are getting better pricing now, which is a positive. And I've seen that on a number of deals that I've done.
So I'm just going to read real quick off the article here, and I just posted it to the chat. Under new rules, high credit borrowers with scores ranging from 680 to 780 will see a spike in their mortgage costs, with applicants who place 15 to 20% down payment experience the biggest increase in fees. So, like I said, it's a news article from the New York Post. I don't know if they're trying to be sensationalist, but from what I've heard, it's just actually going to be real.
So does that mean that if you have a higher credit score, you're going to pay
More.
a higher rate, or does that mean that the difference is changing where you used to pay 3/8 more, now you're only paying 1/8 more with a 640 as opposed to a 720?
I'll read another section here, Rob. Under the revised LLPA pricing structure, a home buyer with a FICO of 740 credit score will and a 15% to 20% down payment will face a 1% surcharge, an increase of 0.750 compared to the old fee of just a quarter. So on the article, it has like a bunch of different scenarios where, it'll show the pricing, the changes. Actually, I was on TikTok yesterday and there was actually a lender on there, and he was saying a way to get around some of these, with putting down a lesser amount would be to do a recast on the loan. But like I said, this is all May 1st, it's going to hit. So I'm sure there's going to be workarounds for some of these scenarios in the coming weeks if this is actually, what they say it's going to be.
So tell somebody, miss a payment. I'm kidding.
So I don't know. It's a crazy world. I never thought I'd see anything like this, but we shall see.
So Frank,
Rob, can I
Frank, what do
share
you-
something?
Yeah.
In 1 second, Colleen, because I just want to, you got to write that down so you don't forget like I do. But Frank, what do you think about having, and Mark, what do you think about having a conversation with, first time buyers about the possibility of doing an FHA for their first mortgage and buying an investment property with some of the other money that they had saved up and doing an analysis? Do you think 1 out of 3, 1 out of 10 might find that valuable?
I think most of them would find it valuable. And I think it goes back to when you talk about separating, the professional loan officers that you guys work with, where it's not just about price, it's providing education for them to build a long-term financial plan. And yeah, it's huge that buying your first home, buying a 1 or 2 or a multifamily home as your first home with 3.5% down, and then you can keep that and move over to a regular, primary 20% down is a great start to building wealth.
Yes, I always advise my, when I was doing my buyer consultations with buyers, I would always advise that, especially for first-time home buyers. If they could get a multifamily, it's definitely the way to get started.
How many significantly wealthy people do you think have no real estate in their investment portfolio?
Not many.
Right? And how many people that became significantly wealthy did so because they had real estate as part of their business investment? Probably a lot of them, right?
Well,
So if nothing else from this session, if we can have a conversation with our clients about their total real estate needs, right? We have 73 people, and maybe there's a group on together like Netta and others. With everybody on this call, there has to be people that we know that probably have investment property or commercial real estate that they're thinking about buying or selling right now, but they're not thinking about us because we don't discuss it. We don't communicate. Okay. And I think Steve Jobs and Sam Walton both put a high emphasis on communicating what the mission is and what we're capable of doing. And I would really be interested to see, you know, Frank and Mark, if you can get back to me when you talk to your people about buying their next home, and what percentage of first-time home buyers put down 10 or 20%. I'll ask Mark first, then I'll come to you, Frank.
The first time home buyers, at least in the ones I do, very rarely are putting 20% down.
Very rarely have a large down payment.
Rarely. You know, now it's a little bit challenging now. I'm talking historically. I mean, it's a little challenging now for them because of how many offers are on a home.
How about trade-up buyers?
More, obviously, because they have equity.
So maybe this philosophy is better for trade-up buyers and showing them how the power of leverage works, right? You put down, you know, 3.5% on an investment property in essence, because you're buying your second home with the real money. And, you know, you can work out the math on that. And I think, you know, a lot of two families with low down payments with FHA probably make sense. You know, maybe they just cover themselves in the beginning, but with rates going up and values appreciating, it's a pretty darn good investment. And Frank, what about you? What would you say?
Well, the majority of first-time home buyers, they don't have a lot to work with to put down unless they're getting a gift from a family member. I do see some decent down payments that way. For the most part, though, you know, the best bang for the buck is an FHA if you could buy a multifamily with it as a first-time home buyer.
Is Maria Della Fera on the call?
Yes, I am.
Maria,
Yes.
you have some first-time home buyers that are putting down a lot of dough down in your market, right?
Absolutely.
And some of them paying cash, right?
Yes, they are. And you know what?
Nice.
The average price point in Monmouth County, this is the median, is $889. And for the month of March, this is staggering. This is just for Monmouth County. For March, there were only 707 listings taken. I mean, sales. There were only, and of those 707 listings, Rob, can you guess at what the average price was?
700,000.
1,400,000 plus. With the median
Wow.
price point of $889. And you know what? Yes, we have first-time home buyers that are buying these homes cash.
Wow.
Yeah, we are still getting a huge influx from New York and Staten Island. So they have tons of money.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. It's crazy. Like, we are still in a hotbed. Deb Wickenhauser's on the call here. She just won a bid out of 21 offers on an 800 plus home. Her buyer went 120,000 over, I believe. And they switched from mortgage to cash just to win the bid. These are crazy, crazy prices. Nicole
Hmm.
Bostich as well, a $1.8 million listing. I'm not gonna say for how much, went, I believe a little over 2 million. Crazy prices down here. And Monmouth
Wow.
County has become unaffordable, that's for sure.
Hey, Rob, this is Denise. I have a
Yes.
really out of the box thought, and this is really, guys, like a mind shift, but just a crazy idea. So a lot of parents plan to leave their children money when they pass on. They utilize other vehicles sometimes than just leaving it in the bank. And a concept that I was speaking to somebody about the other day, which is fascinating. Yes, people are earning more interest on their money in the bank currently. However, what better way to grow wealth for children or your children's children than provide pulling money out of the bank, investing it in real estate, and then leaving them that property? It's a new concept with estate planning, but it's something that I think in the real estate arena, we might want to think about more when you're having general discussions, the opportunity arises because people want to leave wealth to their children and grandchildren.
Does
And
any,
it's,
does anybody on the call have a, like a tax planner or a financial planner that
I
they
do.
refer their clients to?
I have a great financial planner, and I actually got a referral from him because his client needed to sell her property because her loan payment was too much. So even though her house was in Long Island, I got a referral from her and got a cut of that.
Wow.
Rob,
Uh-huh.
along those lines, is what I wanted to talk about. My granddaughter and her boyfriend are currently working on buying through one of our agents. I referred it, a condominium. And to tell you how smart these kids are, by the way, they're 21 years old, the two of them. The boyfriend says to me, when we look for something, it has to be something that can be rented. Because this is just a step up for us. This will be an investment property for us. My granddaughter's going to be a doctor. She's in medical school. And Ben is a very successful, he comes from a long family of mortgage people, big time mortgage people in the state of Florida. So he's working with them. So obviously he's very successful. But this is how these young people are thinking. And I think if we share that with young professionals, doctors, kids that are going to law school and so forth, that instead of renting, they purchase something and then have that as a future investment as they move forward onto something else, because their income is going to grow substantially. My granddaughter right now was working for a doctor and doing very well while she's going to medical school.
Has anybody had any of your clients buy a property for their kid going to college for 4 years rather than rent the property?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be another great discussion? Like if you're a parent and you're putting your kid through college, I spoke to somebody who had a child going to college, I believe in St. Louis or somewhere in the Midwest. And the rental for a property for them and their 4 friends was like $2,600. And they wound up buying a property for $230,000. The mortgage was a little over $2,000, and they were able to get the other guests to pay almost the entirety of it. And they now have the tax write-off, the
The
amortization.
in-state tuition.
They have the prop. Yeah. So basically it's almost free housing. If the property
Yeah.
goes up in value, then that will offset the cost of the college education. And this is at, today's higher rates. Think about what happens if the property value goes down. I mean, the interest rates go down, they can refinance. And Mark Johnson, if you're buying a property with your college student, right? And the student's living there and you're not, is there any way you can get like owner occupied rates for that?
Yes, you could have the, you could have the student be the borrower and the parents could be non-occupant co-borrowers and do an FHA loan. Yeah.
Wow. So like think about these conversations. If we redefine who we are, right? We're not just the person that sells their residence and helps them trade up, but we help them with all their real estate needs. And I see a video here, Glenn, talking about how somebody could put their kid through college without having any housing expense.
My Hillside listing right now is exactly that scenario. They paid not a dime for it during the 4 years of college, and they're selling it for 300 grand higher than they bought it for.
But that's a video, brother.
Yeah.
Once I finish the sale here, I'll do it.
No, but think about and forget about the promotional value. And I think the promotional value is not to make more sales, but it's to educate people who have limited mindsets on what reality might look like, correct? Because if everybody is just paying rent for their kids to go to school, and then they have the opportunity to have an investment, right, that might appreciate. And historically, over time, things do appreciate, right? You're adding value. And even if they decide not to do it, do you feel like that would be a value, Glenn, to at least have shared that with them as having that as an opportunity? And then if you share that with them and then, 3 years later, they see your video about somebody who made 300,000, who are they upset with? Themselves, not you, right?
True.
And to be honest, maybe they're gonna reach out to you and say, you know what, I missed the boat there. What can we do to make up for lost time there, Glenn?
True.
That's what I'm saying about redefining who we are. We narrowly define that we are, we're people that just help them when they have a need. Okay, we don't educate them, and we can't. I'm not suggesting that we manipulate people to do things, because I think that doesn't work. And, we live in the abundance mindset, which means that if you just talk to enough people, you'll find people that have a need that will really value this need that you have. Okay.
That's the way to create customers for life.
Right. And real estate customers for life, not just residential.
Exactly.
And Rob, there are a large portion of people out
7
there
minutes.
looking for a better return on their money.
Mhm.
So there are people that would jump at this, but they just haven't thought about it.
Yeah. I mean, and how good would that make you, Glenn? How good would that make you feel? Glenn, how good would that make you feel when you do that? When you do that video about somebody making $300,000 and having a cheaper way to put their kids through school?
Yeah. Especially when it was your first sale in real estate.
Yeah. So let's redefine, what business we're in.
But you can also build your students' credit that way. If you're a co-signer for him or her, that's a good thing,
Yep.
no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope that that this kind of gives us another perspective, and not how to line our pockets, but how to help our clients make the right decisions that in return, the more value we put out in the universe, the more income that we see in our bank account, if that makes any sense. Right? Now, Colleen, I think you had something that you wanted to say. I don't know if you wrote it down or if you already said it.
Oh, I already said it. I was going to tell the story about my granddaughter and her boyfriend. That's another avenue that we, tend to overlook. Our clients' children, who are, going to be professionals, whose income is going to grow, and it's a good way to start them out in their investment career.
That's why everybody should be calling their SOIs and their past clients, because they're
Bravo, Ron.
kids.
So Ron and Colleen, everybody on this call, you can change people's lives in a significant way. right? I mean, if you're working and Glenn, the people that bought that house that are making a $300,000 profit, what do you think their annual income is?
Theirs is pretty steep,
Like more than 500?
easily.
Okay, so
They live out of state and they're in Colorado.
for most people, if you make $150,000 and you make a $300,000 profit, which might be on the sale of a residence because it's your kids, like there might be some creative tax planning going on there. Probably like making twice as much money on a W-2, right? And think about how much you'd have to work to make 300 grand on a W-2. I mean, it's totally life changing, and then they can reinvest that, and that can be the move that they made that changed the generational wealth of those individuals, right? People who make a lot of money, they get to do a lot of things. If they have a charity that's important to them, they can fund that charity. They can have a comfortable retirement. You know, they can put some money away for kids and grandkids.
What does SOI stand for?
Sphere of influence,
Sphere of influence. Okay, thank you.
right? All the people that you know that would trust you.
Hey,
So,
Rob, I have one last quick tip for everybody that might be helpful to some people. The way people do first-time homebuyer seminars, there are financial planners in the industry that do wealth building seminars. You might want to start to see if anybody can network through their accountant with financial planners. And maybe that would be a good concept to talk to the financial planner about and do a seminar with, your lender and the realtor there to explain the concept of building wealth through real estate for their children and grandchildren, parlay off the whole college, building the credit thing. But I'm sure many people on this call have accountants that maybe can direct them to financial planners and do a wealth building seminar. Just a thought.
I mean, I think these are all great ideas. Don't try to do too many of them. Just try to take one and execute it. Don't do 1,000 things. And I think you'll be glad that you embrace that. Any final questions anybody have?
So just another avenue is when your clients, their children are graduating from college, they've reached that age. I've had conversations, well, what are your children going to be doing now that they're graduated from college? And I've gotten responses like, well, this one's got a job opportunity with Google. And I said, well, I can help them find a place to live out there in Seattle, rather than, just hunting around. And they jumped at that opportunity, and it was a nice referral fee. So
Right.
I think that these are, that's another way to branch out our business.
Robert?
Great idea, Rob.
Yeah. I mean, defining yourself as not just your local real estate person, is somebody that can help, right?
Right.
Anyway, I think this was great. I appreciate your time, and hopefully you're taking one thing that you're gonna implement in the immediate future and use it to help people change their lives and provide, experiences in real estate that, are game changing and memorable in a positive way. So have a productive weekend, everybody. See you next week. Mondays, peer-to-peer is about a value add that one of our top teams does. It's the Chopper Russo team. They're going to talk about some of the benefit of hosting an events and a service that they use called Updater to add more value, provide a concierge experience to your clients. So hope to see you on Monday and again next Friday. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend. Thanks. Bye.